Okay, 15 more discontinued fragrances worth finding and buying. This is a series of videos I've done. 8 so far are on the channel. You can search discontinued, and this is part 9. Some have been discontinued for a while, but definitely worth finding these discontinued fragrances because they're all really great. Just be careful, don't pay too much money for them, but find out about these fragrances coming right up. Thanks so much for tuning in. It's Sebastian. Yes, we're talking about discontinued fragrances today. There's 15 more fragrances here, and as I said, there's already 8 videos in this series on the channel, and this is part number 9. I might stop at part number 10, and I've actually, extended the air time between the last video and to now, so I'm kind of running out of discontinued fragrances, but there's always discontinued fragrances. New fragrances are getting newer fragrances are getting discontinued. And also let me know if you have a favorite fragrance that has recently gotten discontinued. What is it? Put a comment down below so I can find out. Let's go ahead and get started with the first fragrance I'm talking about. This got discontinued last year. It's VILHELM Parfumerie's A Lilac a Day. Let me know if you're a fan of this one. It's actually my favorite lilac fragrance. I'm actually obsessed with the smell of lilacs, and here they've done such an amazing job with the smell. I absolutely love it. It's almost taking the lilacs, mixing it with some green stemmy smells, and then throwing in some warmth. There's the note of black amber in here, so there's some warmth. It eventually becomes warm. It doesn't get as warm as something like a Lilac Love from the House of Amouage, but there's warmth there, but it's a nice contrast of the freshness of the lilac with some jasmine. There's freesia here, there's rose, and of course galbanum is giving us that kind of green bitter stemminess. It's such a great fragrance. Sadly, I believe it wasn't very popular, but to me it's one of the best lilac fragrances. If you can find a bottle, get it. I believe in March when I was in Paris, the Paris VILHELM Parfumerie boutique still had some bottles, so if you're around, check with them and see if they have any more. Moving on to the House of GUERLAIN, it's Tonka Imperiale. Yes, this is discontinued, so get yourself a bottle if you can get it. I think some stores or places that sell this collection might still have some because recently it got discontinued, and I don't understand what their decision is. Is it because they just launched the extrait version of the Tonka fragrance? I'm not 100% sure, but it's a great fragrance. It's been in my collection for, I believe, since the earlier part of 2014, 2015, somewhere like there. So probably mid 2010s. It's a great nutty, bitter taste of, a flavor, or not the flavor, but the smell of tonka beans. But there's also bitter almonds here, some tobacco, incense, cedar, rosemary, pine, and jasmine. And it's a gorgeous Guerlain-esque fragrance, really beautiful, gourmand. But sadly, it's discontinued. But hey, guess what? Our store here in San Francisco, Neiman Marcus, still has some bottles. Contact Colleen over at Neiman Marcus. I believe they have around 4 or 5 bottles in the large size like this. So if you're still on the market, go contact Colleen at Neiman Marcus. She'll be able to assist you with it. Moving on to the House of Mugler, another tonka bean fragrance. This is pure tonka. Targeted to men, but I know women wear this stuff. I believe it's, fairly unisex. For me it is. And it's a continuation of the original Amen going into a tonka direction. Created by Jacques Couclier, who's created a lot of the fragrances for Mugler's Amen series. This is tonka beans, coffee, cacao, vanilla, licorice, patchouli, lavender, mint. It was a great gourmand, launched in 2016, and it went away pretty fast. I believe it was discontinued by the time we came to the latter part of the 2010s, just before L'Oreal took over Mugler, and I don't know what they are doing with it, but I have heard from the grapevine they're finally coming out with a male release, so I can't wait for that. But I believe it's, what's the latest Angel for women that just was announced? It's the same name, drawing a blank with the name, like Phantom or Phantasm or something like that. Again, I'm drawing a blank, but I'm excited for a new men's Mugler fragrance. But if you can find yourself a bottle of pure tonka, please get it, because it is a really great offering from Mugler's, you know, Amen series of fragrances. And speaking of Mugler, we also have a feminine targeted release. We've got 2 strictly feminine targeted fragrances in this video. This is Mugler's Angel Garden of Stars Violette. This one right here. Here's the star right there. This was actually a series I didn't know much about, but this one to me is such a great offering. Launched in 2005, created by Françoise Caron. So this is patchouli, violets, violet leaves, woods, vanilla, sugar, hyacinth, oak moss. It's a violet bomb because it also is combining violet leaves with violet flowers. But in the background, you can totally notice the Mugler DNA, and the Mugler DNA is super fantastic. Mugler used to be one of my favorite designer houses until the latter part of the 2010s when they went downhill completely, and all the fragrances were generic. Now I'm hoping they do a good job with some new launches from Mugler, but if you can get your hands on this Violette, Angel Garden of Stars Violette, I highly recommend you do that because it is fantastic. Really, really great fragrance from the House of Mugler. And again, they did such great fragrances. They've created some of the best, edgier fragrances from the designers. But sadly, it's gone way downhill since the L'Oreal takeover. And speaking of L'Oreal, we have another house that is under L'Oreal. It's called Atelier Cologne, and this is Gold Leather, this one right here. So this was one of my all-time favorite offerings from this house. It was a stronger concentration of an oudy leather, but fruity boozy at the same time. It was kind of gourmand, but not necessarily like sugary sweet, because it didn't have like that strong vanilla caramel or things like that. But you know, the booziness and the fruitiness of the plums created kind of a gourmand edge with the leather and the oud, but it also has some eucalyptus, artemisia, saffron, bitter orange, guaiac wood, and cedar. So it's uber woody, lots of wood and leather here. And of course the plums and the rum gives you that fruity booziness that was a really, really great offering. Sadly, it got discontinued. On top of that, it was actually pulled. The brand was pulled out of the USA. In fact, all of North America, maybe even South America, if they did any distribution there. But not last month, but in March while I was in France, I discovered that Atelier Cologne is being relaunched, but being relaunched for the Asian market. They've done a lot of their, redone the bottles and things like that. So I don't know why they're strictly keeping it for there, but if you can get yourself on hands on a Gold Leather, it is a super fantastic fragrance, one of their best, absolute best creations from that house. And again, if you like plums and boozy rummy notes with oud and leather and woods, fantastic fragrance. But this next one from the house of Maison Francis Kurkdjian, this is Cologne Pour le Soir from Maison Francis Kurkdjian. A lighter take on Absolute Pour le Soir. I have got my hands on a bottle of Cologne Pour le Soir. It's one of the earlier bottles, as you can see the cap there. It's a twist-off cap, I believe. You know what? I think this is not, but it looks like it is. No, it is. It is. So this is a fresher, I wouldn't call it a fresher take on the Absolute Pour le Soir, but a lighter take on it because it comes in a larger bottle, obviously, so you spritz on more of it. The concentration is much lighter than the Absolute Pour le Soir, but in the end, it's the same fragrance, just like a diluted version of it, which if you think the other one might be too strong, you can go with something like this. But in the end, it's basically honey, benzoin, incense, and rose. This is a sweet, powdery, honeyed amber fragrance with, of course, smoky touches and the rosiness that's in here. It's a great, great offering, although I prefer the Absolute Pour le Soir more, but I've got hardly any left of that one. And so now I got to start using this one whenever I'm craving that smell. To me also, this one's not as animalic as the Absolute Pour le Soir, so it might be an easier wear. Again, it's still resinous, it's lots of amber, the honey, there's the incense, so it has some smoke running throughout it. Just, like I said, a diet version of the original, but a fantastic DNA that Francis Kurkdjian had created for the House of Maison Francis Kurkdjian, and it got discontinued like around 2020, and it's a sad thing. But there's rumors that it's coming back. I'm not 100% sure. We'll see, because Ciel de Gum has come back as Reflets the Amber for Harrods. So maybe they'll bring this one back, or the original, or I wouldn't call the other one the original, but maybe it is. But Absolute Pour Le Soir is amazing, and then Cologne Pour Le Soir is also really, really great from the house of Maison Francis Kurkdjian. If you can get a bottle, get it. I highly, highly recommend that DNA. But moving on to the house of Comme des Garçons, this is number 3. Sadly, I've got this much left. I'm so bummed I can't get another bottle of this. I'd love to get a bottle of this one. But to me, this is a very green fragrance. It's uber green. But when it's settling down, there's incense, woods, and resins in there as well. But up top, it's a fresh greenness to the max. Powdery, aromatic, herbal, with basil, angelica, incense, pimento, vetiver, immortelle, olibanum, clary sage, mace, cassis, birch, pepper, magnolia. Does anybody know who's selling this or where you can buy it? I actually really love the bottle as well, with the little, whatever you call it there, the way it's created. It's a unique bottle, and it only came, I think this is a 75 ml. I don't think it came in 100 ml, which is fine. It's just a slightly smaller bottle, but a great offering from Comme des Garçons, one of the kind of brands that creates, you know, off the beaten track kind of off the beaten wall kind of you know, fragrances with unique notes and things like that. And this is definitely one of their best, but sadly discontinued. This came out in 2002, and I'm looking for a bottle. And if you know of one and you're into the idea of that fragrance, green, earthy, aromatic, bitter, powdery, and also incense, resins, and amber. This next one is a feminine targeted release from the house of Jean Patou. This is Sublime EDP. Now, recently, somebody was selling their collection of fragrances. I'm kind of, you know, friends with a lot of people in the perfume community, I would call it. They were getting rid of this fragrance. So this is, according to the databases, launched in 1992. But on the bottom of my bottle, it does say 1991. I don't know if you can see that or not. So this bottle, I don't know if this bottle was produced in 1991, or is it just putting the date of the launch of the fragrance? But on the back here as well, it says Eau de Parfum. And when I checked this one out before I bought it from this person that was getting rid of their collection, I immediately enjoyed the smell in its thickness, its intensity, its potency, and then also the ambery touches with the floral notes that are in here. Launched in 1992 according to the databases, but it does say 1991 on the bottom of this bottle. So it's Ylang Ylang, Jasmine, Amber, Musk, Rose, Orange Blossom, Lily of the Valley, Mandarin, Oranges, Bergamot, Patchouli. So it's a feminine targeted release, but man, it smells really, really great. It's just a beefy kind of fragrance. The way fragrances were really, really nicely made back then. And again, this will be a cherished bottle because it also has been redone, and it comes in the kind of more of a rectangular bottle now, but this is the original version. And it is fantastic. If you can find this, I highly, highly recommend it because it smells fantastic, especially if you like more classic, vintagey fragrances. You know, the kind of fragrances that really had that heft, oomph to them. You know, really, really awesome stuff. And that Jean Patou Sublime EDP in its original form, fantastic. I'm going to cherish that. Keep it in the dark, cool, dry place, as I always do with my discontinued fragrances. The problem with discontinued fragrances is if you only have one, you're going to be using it and it's going to go down, which is the fact with this one. I was never able to buy another bottle, and I absolutely love this fragrance. This is from the house of Penhaligon's. It's called Levantium, this one right here, launched in 2014. That's how much I have left in it. What I liked about this one and this particular collection of fragrances is that there was all these ouds, right? All these ouds. But this one had this wormwood note that I don't quite frequently see in fragrances featuring oud and rose. This one also has rose and saffron. So it's a kind of a Middle Eastern leaning fragrance. But that wormwood really kind of freshened it up, made it green a little bit, and also made it a bit boozy. Contrast with the oud, the saffron, the rose, the saffron with its, you know, leathery spiciness. And in addition to that, there's the cloves here, guaiac, patchouli, cardamom, sandalwood, amber, myrrh, jasmine, artemisia, which is also another note that really complements the wormwood to give you that aromatic, spicy, green booziness. What an awesome release this is. Really, really one of the best from this house. But I guess just people don't click with these fragrances, and that's the reason why things get discontinued. But if you are into the idea of oud, saffron, rose, with that wormwood and artemisia mixed in to give you that fresh, boozy greenness, try and find a bottle of Levantium. It's really, really great. A great fragrance from that house. But this next fragrance from the house of Armani, it's Armani Eau Pour Homme, this one right here. So this one is a fragrance that was originally launched in 1984. Then it was brought back, redone in 2013. But now it's gotten, I think, permanently discontinued from the house of Armani, who's also under L'Oreal, by the way. This was one of the original classics for men. It was kind of Eau Sauvage-esque, but not quite, or maybe even YSL Pour Homme, the original. So it's interesting that in the old days, they used to combine these fresh men's fragrances with warm spices, because this one has a very prominent clove and nutmeg note. So it's giving you this kind of a fresh but warmth combo together, creating contrast, which I really enjoy. And this, even though this is the 2013 version right here, still smells great, but it is quite light, because I remember when I sampled the original, I never really fully owned a bottle of the original vintage, which was much more potent. Always remember how great it smelled. It's that fusion of warm spices and fresh zingy citruses, because it's got bergamot, oak moss, cloves, nutmeg, mandarin, basil, sandalwood, patchouli, and lily. Wonderful offering. Sadist discontinued now. If you can get yourself a bottle, get it. It'll be gone forever. And L'Oreal seems to be discontinuing a lot of the classics for men now. I spoke about this next fragrance recently in the latest Acne Studios fragrance for Frederic Malle. This is Superstitious from the house of Frederic Malle. It's a collaboration with Albert Elbaz, the fashion designer who passed away. So I think after he passed away, the fragrance was discontinued. But it was a really great offering created by Dominique Ropillon. It's 2016 is when it launched. Aldehydes, jasmine, incense, rose, vetiver, patchouli, peaches, and amber. So there's that kind of fruitiness mixed in with amber in here. It's a fresh fruit, warm amber. But what's unique about this one, that kind of light, fizzy airiness of the aldehydic notes with rose, incense, and also patchouli. So a really great creation, really potent stuff, but sadly it's gone now. Let me know if you've gotten your nose on this, Frederic Malle Superstitious, or any of the fragrances that I've spoken about so far, and what your thoughts are on them, or if you will be hunting down a bottle. But this Superstitious, like I said, it was one of my favorites from the house of Frederic Malle, but sadly it's gone. But now we have Acne Studios, and if you caught my video on Acne Studios, they're nothing alike. This Superstitious and Acne Studios are nothing alike. And Acne Studios is also a collaboration with a fashion house or fashion brand. So either way, I prefer this one over the Acne Studios, but I do like Acne Studios for its heft. This to me is more my kind of fragrance because it has the patchouli, the incense, the rose, and everything. So it's a bit more beefier than Acne Studios. Either way, Superstitious from Frederic Malle. Check it out if you don't know it. Next, moving on to the house of Memo Paris. It's Courtier Latin, this one right here. Are you familiar with this one? This one's sadly discontinued, but it was one of my first Memo Paris fragrances that I had purchased, along with Italian Leather, which was recently featured in the Tomato Leaf video. This to me was a woody bomb. It was really, really intensely woody with cedar and sandalwood. Lots of cedar and sandalwood here, and a bit of amber as well, along with tonka beans. But for me, it reminded me a little bit of Frederic Malle's Féminité du Bois. Are you familiar with that one? Also, it was originally launched as Shiseido's same named fragrance. But this was more of a masculine take on that particular fragrance. And even though there's no mention of plums, which Féminité du Bois has plums in it, this does have a bit of fruitiness in there. Unfortunately, this is all I have left. But a really great offering from that house. But sadly, it's discontinued. Let me know if you were a fan of that one. Or are you a fan of the Serge Lutens fragrance, Féminité du Bois? Or even the Shiseido, because the Shiseido came in a different bottle. This next one was a limited edition release from the house of Diptyque. It's called Kyoto, this one right here. I've cherished this bottle for a while, but the reason I cherished it because it was a limited edition release and you can't really buy this one anywhere anymore. Kyoto is a great combo of notes. It's Turkish rose in the end, but they've combined it with incense, and Kyoto, the city in Japan, which I visited recently, is known for incense. I couldn't believe how many incense shops I was walking past when I was there. But what's unique about this one is beetroot. Kind of sort of like the Comme des Garçons fragrance Rouge, which is beetroot with incense. This one has incense, this one has beetroot. They are different, but then kind of similar as well. So it's beetroot, vetiver, Turkish rose, incense, lightly smoky, and of course that vegetal fruitiness of the beetroot, along with the grassy earthiness of the vetiver, providing its woody backbone. And then of course the rose comes in as well to kind of give you a little bit more of a unisex feminine touch in this mostly kind of a masculine offering, but a really great offering. Sadly, it's not around anymore. Maybe they'll bring it back. It comes in a beautiful reddish beetroot colored bottle. It's Kyoto from the House of Diptyque. This next one's from the House of Maison Margiela. It's Whispers in the Library, this one right here. And recently somebody wrote and said that Coffee Break is discontinued, but I checked the Maison Margiela website. It was still on there, so maybe it's on its way to get discontinued. I'm not 100% sure. Or were they referring to this one? Because this one and Coffee Break did launch around the same time. But sadly, Whispers in the Library got discontinued or canned. It's vanilla, woodsy notes, cedar, and black pepper. So the black pepper is very noticeable in here. It's a nice contrast to vanillic notes as well. But there's lots of woods in here. I guess the inspiration is a library, but where does the vanilla come from? Where does the black pepper come from? Well, I don't care. It was a really great offering from this house, one of the best, but sadly it got canned. I don't know if it was just not selling, or was there an ingredient in here that's banned? That's all I have in this bottle, and I do have my backup. As soon as I found out this was getting discontinued, I picked it up because it's again one of my favorites from this house, and also had pretty good longevity for eau de toilette fragrances. And I'm going to end the video here with this fragrance from the House of Nichane. It's Passion Choco, this one right here. Passion Choco was the gourmand fragrance from the House of Nichane. Early on, it launched in 2013, and it's dark chocolate, vanilla, coffee, passion fruit, black musk, benzoin, patchouli, coriander, grapefruit, and linden blossom. If you like chocolatey notes, this is definitely one for you to find, hunt down, and get, because it's definitely really gorgeous with the chocolatey notes. There's fruitiness in here that also kind of tricks me and provides a little bit of a booziness in there, but it becomes ambery, and then also along the way you'll experience spices as well. Really one of the best from Nichane, but sadly maybe it was just not that kind of a fragrance that Nichane is known for, but I felt like it was a great gourmand, especially if you like the idea of chocolate. And the thing with this one was, I really liked it because I couldn't stand the Montal Choco Greedy. Is that what it's called? Chocolate Greedy is what I should say. That fragrance turned me off of chocolate, but this was one of the fragrances that kind of like reignited my interest for chocolatey fragrances. But either way, Passion Choco from the House of Nichane, and that's the last discontinued fragrance I think you guys should look and try and find. Try and get your nose on it first and then find a bottle if you can. But let me know what your thoughts are on these fragrances. Are you a fan of these fragrances? And also let me know, is there a fragrance that was recently discontinued that you're a fan of and you can't find? Put a comment down below so I can find out. Either way, guys, thanks so much for watching this video. If you want to find out about other discontinued fragrances by watching the series, just search for discontinued, and I've got 1 through 8, and of course now number 9. And as I said, I might do a number 10, but much later on down the line. But let me know your thoughts on these fragrances. As I said, put a comment down below. Please like this video. Please share it. Follow me on Instagram and Facebook, and I'll be back with more videos very soon. Have a good one. Goodbye. Last but not least, this is not one of my all-time favorites, and also it's quite animalic and intense, but I wanted to highlight it here as a discontinued fragrance in case you are a fan of it. This is from the House of Parfums Dusita. It's Oud Infini, this one right here. Intensely animalic, really, really skanky, and overly intense. I have a challenging time wearing this one. I can't wear it, but in case you're a fan of it, check this one out because I think it's still selling out there, but it is discontinued. Featuring notes of Laotian oud, civet, rose de mai, sandalwood, benzoin, orange flower, musk, vanilla. From experience, it does eventually settle down to a rosy oud combo, but you gotta sit through all the funk. If you can't handle the funk, don't get this one. But I'm just highlighting it. As I said, it is discontinued now. In case you didn't know, this is a way for you to find out. Laotian oud and the civet creates such a funk in this, really, really intensely animalic and musky, that I'm shying away from that kind of experience. But you might be a fan of it, so get yourself a bottle before they run out. But either way, this is Oud Infini from the House of Parfums Dusita. Thanks so much for watching. See you later, guys. Bye.